Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the management, staff, and board of directors of SECU, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you joining us today for this webinar. My name is Narissa Mohammed, Chair of the Education Committee, and I will be your host for this session. We know your time is valuable, and we really truly appreciate you spending it with us as we dive into today's topic, transitioning to retirement, a comprehensive guide to understanding the National Insurance Scheme. Before we begin, I would like to cover a few housekeeping items. This webinar will last approximately 90 minutes, including time for questions at the end. If you have questions during the presentation, please type them into the chat or raise your hand at the end of the presentation. We'll do our very best to answer as many questions during the Q&A session. A recording of this webinar will be shared with you afterwards and placed on SECU's website. I would like to take this moment to introduce our presenter for today. Ms. Alina Nurse has a wealth of experience with the National Insurance Board, having dedicated over 20 years of service. Throughout her career, she has contributed to various departments, including insurance operations, investments, and mortgages, which has provided her with a comprehensive understanding of the organization. Currently, Ms. Nurse holds the position of Public Relations Officer Education within the Corporate Communications Department. In her role, she is responsible for identifying the educational needs of various stakeholders and crafting strategies to address these needs. Additionally, Ms. Nurse plays a crucial part in maintaining positive media relations, offering support for corporate events, and assisting with social media efforts, amongst other key responsibilities. Her role is integral to ensuring effective communication between the NIBTT and its stakeholders. She is passionate about educating and empowering others about the NIBTT. We are truly fortunate to have her with us today. Please join me in welcoming our speaker, Ms. Alina Nurse, who will be guiding us through today's session. Over to you, Ms. Nurse. I will see you afterwards for the Q&A session. Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't know the mic was muted. It is my pleasure to be here with you today, you guys here today. You know, in 2026, retirement is a burning issue, a burning topic, especially as we heard that the age for retirement will be increasing. Contributions have increased. So I want to go through what is some things with you all. What is retirement benefits? What is the retirement age? Why is there a need for an increase in the retirement age? I want to compare Trinidad and Tobago's retirement age with our CARICOM neighbors. I'll go through the pension and grant with you all. Actually, I would like 2 persons to volunteer, or I will call 2 persons from the list of names that I have here to actually go through the calculation of the retirement pension and the grant. Well, the grant is more or less straightforward, but I want at the end that you all will have a good understanding of how the NIBTT calculates the retirement pension, because a lot of people are unaware. All right, one of the things we hear people asking is, why am I receiving $3,000 and I would have contributed over 30 years? Not forgetting the fact that they would have contributed in the earlier days where contributions were very low. All right, so the outcome of your pension is usually based on the value of the contributions, again, which is pegged to your salary. So if you have a big salary, the outcome of your pension will be bigger. than someone who has a smaller salary, notwithstanding the fact you all may both have the same number of contributions. So two persons might have 1,500 contributions, but one salary was much higher than the other. The outcome of the pension would be different. One might be subsidized, the other one might not be. So I want us to look at those things, right? We will look at the qualifying criteria for both the retirement pension and the grant, how they're calculated. We will look at reciprocal arrangements between ourselves and Canada and ourselves and CARICOM countries, and then we would end with life certificates, right? Those who are required to submit life certificates and those who aren't required to submit life certificates. And then after that, we will take the question, the Q&A. All right, so I just want to pull up the slide and then we will start. Right, so. Right, so here we have it. Okay. All right. So what is a retirement benefit? A retirement benefit is a payment typically in the form of monthly pension or lump sum. I'm sure most of you all would have heard about the lump sum or the pension, right? The pension is paid if you have greater than 750 contributions. The lump sum is less than 750 contributions. Right? This is provided to individuals after they stop working, and is funded by accumulated employee-employer contributions. Now, I know I am certain, and most of you all are aware, to every dollar that comes out of your salary, $2 is matched by the employer and remitted to the NIB. And when we're looking to calculate your pension, it is based on the entire contribution that was paid on your behalf. So these benefits ensure financial security and income stability during retirement. All right. One of the things I want us to look at is the retirement age. At present, the retirement age is 60. All right. The age of 65 years, or any age less than 65. So at present, NIBTT's retirement age is 65 years. However, the reason why I said 60, the minimum retirement age is 60. If you're no longer employed with an employer, if you have retired, you can make your claim at the age of 60, right? So those persons who are engaged in informal employment, who work with an employer, and the employer, their retirement age is 65 years, they cannot access the retirement benefit before the age of 65. If they are to do so, it's either they take early retirement, or they go off on some medical ground, right? And then they can access it. Once you are engaged in a contract of employment with an employer, when one's a contract of service, with an employer, you are supposed to make your claim for retirement at the point in time that you leave insurable employment. So for those companies that persons go beyond 60 to the age of 65, I know I'm aware of some organizations, people retire at 62. So at 62 years, they make their claim. Some others retire at 65. At 65 years, they can make their claim. All right. So for persons at the National Insurance Board, we are supposed to retire at the age of 60. So at the age of 60, we can make our claim. In the not too distant future, things are going to change a little. All right, and we'll see that as we go along. All right. So what is the retirement age? Again, retirement age is the age 65. A lot of people say the age of 60, but under the National Insurance Act, the retirement age is age 65. However, from January 2028, the NIB TT will gradually increase the retirement age to 65 years. This will be done on a phased approach. The age for full pension will rise by 1 year every 2 years until it reaches 65 in 2036. So who's affected? Anyone retiring at the age of 60 before January 1st, 2028, and I want you all to pay particular attention to this. Anyone who's retiring at the age of 60 before the 1st of January 2028, and all existing pensioners will not be affected. Right? Early retirement workers can still choose to retire at 60, but they will receive an adjusted or a reduced pension. So why the NIB has taken this position, we will see in a little bit. So to make it easy for you all to understand, I broke it down so you would see. Persons retiring in 2028 and 2029 will receive their pension a year later at 61 years. Persons retiring in 2029 to 2030 will receive their retirement at 61 years as well, because for every 2 years, the pension goes up by 1 year. So if it starts in 2028, the next time that it would be adjusted, it would be 2030. So persons who are retiring in 2030 will get their pension at 62 years. Persons retiring in 2031 will get their retirement at 62 years. Persons who retire in 2032 would get it at 63 years. Persons retiring in 2033 at 63 years. Persons retiring in 2034 will get it at 64 years. Persons retiring in 2035 at 64 years. Persons retiring in 2036 will get it at 65 years. Bear in mind, this is the full pension. You can get it at the age of 60, but again, it will be at a reduced rate. So why is there a need for an increase in the retirement age? This is being done primarily to ensure long-term sustainability of the fund, which is impacted by aging population, a decline in workforce, financial deficit because our income right now exceeds our expenditure. All right. And of course, this is to avoid insolvency. All right. So these are the reasons why it has to be done. All right. So with that in mind, let's look at some of our CARICOM neighbors and their retirement age. In Barbados, the current retirement age is 67 years. The Bahamas, full retirement benefits are available from 65 years, with an early retirement available at 60 years, of course, with reduced benefits. Belize, the statutory pensionable age is 65, with early pension options starting at 60. BVI, the statutory pensionable age is 65 years. Dominica, the statutory pensionable age is 65 with an early option at 60. The pensionable age is currently in Grenada being increased from 60 to 65 through a phased approach, probably similar to Trinidad and Tobago. So you see from our CARICOM neighbors, we are not alone. Others have moved their retirement age to 65, and for Barbados, as much as 67. All right. So we are now going to delve into the retirement pension, see what a retirement pension is, calculate the retirement pension, then we're going to look at the retirement grant, right? And we're going to go through the retirement grant. So here we go. What are the qualifying criteria for both the pension and the grant? So the insured person must have attained retirement age, which we established a while ago, is the age of 65. So at present, an insured person who is age 65 will receive the benefit, whether he or she stops working or not. Until 1st of January 2028, the insured person who is between the ages of 60 to under 65 will receive the benefit only if he or she ceases to be in insurable employment. Now, from 2028, January 2028, it will change a bit because it goes up by a year. All right? You can get it at 2028, but it will be at a reduced rate. All right? So, the pensions are periodic payment made for life to an insured person who has attained retirement age and has at least 750 weekly contributions. We have heard about 750 contributions, right? A contribution is a payment which is input into your records by the weeks. So if someone works for an entire month, depending on, it's recorded by the number of Mondays. So if someone works for an entire month or for an entire year, we count the number of Mondays in that particular period, whether it be a month or a year. So in a month, sometimes you get 4 Mondays, sometimes you get 5 Mondays. So if someone would have requested a contribution statement and would have received it, they would have seen that some years have 53 weeks, some years have 52. And that is because some years have 53 Mondays, some have 52. Again, it is paid based on the number of Mondays in the particular period, the particular year, the particular month. All right? So once you have amassed at least 750 contributions, it tells me, or it tells us at the National Insurance Board that somebody would have qualified for the basic pension. All right? So we need, for those persons who would have made more than 750 contributions, we need to establish how much pension we have to pay. And as we go along, you would understand how it is done. All right? So someone who has an excess of 750 contributions, obviously his pension is going to be greater than someone who just has 750 contributions. So when someone says, Mrs., you know, I make more than the amount. The amount is what? The amount, I know they mean 750 contributions, but the contributions cannot stop. You cannot stop contributions from being taken out of your salary until either you tender your resignation and leave or you retire. All right? Once someone made 750 contributions, you don't have the option of contributions stopping. And that is to ensure that you are covered for short-term benefits. So if someone wants their contributions to stop at 750, Legislatively, it cannot be done. But let's just take a look at if legislation changes and you can stop at 750. If you are still employed and depending on the person's age, they get pregnant, they get sick, they get injured on the job, they will not be compensated. Simply because in order to access these benefits, you must have current contributions. So if a woman has to go on maternity leave, we look at contributions within the last 20 weeks from her expected date of delivery. If someone gets sick and has to and loses earnings and has to make a claim for sickness benefit, we look for contributions within the last 10 weeks prior to the week that they fell ill. So that is why contributions must continue to come out of your salary. And in the end, you will get a bigger benefit. All right? So the contributions are there, continue to come out to protect you against short-term illnesses or short-term situations, whether it be employment injury, if you get injured on the job, a maternity in the case of a woman, sickness in the case of everybody. It is there for you to access. And at the end of the day, the more contributions, the greater the benefit. All right? So when we look at your contributions, we look at all contributions, paid contributions, which are contributions that are paid on your behalf by the employer. We look at benefit credits, which is something that people are not really aware of. When someone makes a claim, the NIB pays your contribution. We pay you the benefit, we pay your contributions. And persons who work in HR department or payroll who fills out the forms and remits the payment for on behalf of their employer to the NIB will be aware of this, right? Once a claim is made, for whatever period of time, contributions are not remitted for that person, and NIB would credit you with those contributions. So contributions are not taken out of your salary, even though someone might be on sick leave and receiving half salary. Once a claim is made, NIB would credit those contributions. No contributions should be deducted and remitted to the NIB. So we call those benefit credits. So if someone got sick or had a baby within a specific year and contributions weren't paid for that person on behalf of by their employer, NIB would have credited it. So once someone gets a contribution statement, it should not be less than the amount of weeks that they were not at work, right? So if someone wasn't at work for 2 months and they get a contribution statement in 2025 and they got a contribution statement in 2026, it should not be less than 2 months of contributions, or let's say 8 contributions. It should be 52 contributions, because once the claim was made, NIB would have credited you with those contributions, right? So we looked at paid contributions, which we all understand. It comes out of our salary, is remitted to the NIB, and it is reflected on your contribution statement. The benefit credits are contributions that NIB would pay on your behalf once a claim was made. And then we have voluntary contributions. Voluntary contributions are contributions that can be paid by persons who were once employed, but no longer employed. So someone was working with an employer, they were sent home, and once they were sent home and they have the means to make the contributions, they can come into the NIB, sign up to be a voluntary contributor, and pay your contributions for yourself. You must have been once employed and currently unemployed, all right? So for persons who were actively employed, was retrenched, or for some reason their employment was terminated, they can come into NIB, sign up to be a voluntary contributor and pay contributions for themselves. You have an 18-month time frame to do so, 18 months from your last employment. And when NIB is putting you into a category, we look at the last 2 weeks of your contributions, and 2 months, sorry, of your contributions, and we put you into a class. All right. So we put you into a class, and based on that class, you are able to pay your voluntary contributions for yourself. I must say though, in doing so, the Act says that a self-employed person is an employed person. So self-employed persons cannot make voluntary contributions, right? Again, just a little slip that I made is the last 2, we look at 2 weeks, the average of 2 weeks of your contributions over that period of time. And we put you in a class based on those 2 weeks of contributions that you would have made, all right? And you can make your voluntary contributions for yourself. All right, so voluntary contributions are added on to your regular contributions. And if it is that you had any claim during your life, whether it's maternity, sickness, and NIB would have credited you for those periods, that is added on. And then then the retirement benefit is calculated, whether it be 750 or more contributions, where you would have been entitled to a retirement pension, or less than 750 contributions, where you would have been entitled to a retirement grant. All right? So moving along, how much is paid? With effect from the 6th of October 2003, persons who were getting less than $1,000 was moved to $1,000. So persons were getting $150, $300, $700. Everybody started to receive $1,000, minimum $1,000. And then with additional contributions persons moved beyond $1,000. And then in 2008, persons were getting, it was moved to $2,000. So persons who were in receipt of $1,200, $1,500 started to get $2,000. And then we had January 2012, persons who were getting less than $3,000 are now in receipt of $3,000. And to date, the minimum pension still stands at $3,000. Right? So I just put this contribution statement. I know it's tiny, but I want you all to kind of understand what I'm going to explain. And it will make a little more sense than when I explain it. So we have 16 classes, all right? We pay retirement pension at present in class 12 because class 16 only started in 2008. And to be paid in class 16, the 16 classes would have had to be in existence for a lot longer. Remember, we had 8 classes, and then we had 12 classes, and now we have 16 classes. So the payments at present for pension is in class 12. So this is a friend of mine who would have had a senior position in the public service, and they would have contributed in class 7, class 8, class 15 and class 16, right? So she had most of her contributions in class 8, class 12, and class 16, right? She retired in 2023 or 2024, I think 2024. Her pension would have been somewhere around $5,400 based on the number of contributions, 1, and 2, the class of contributions. All right? So we want to look, she had 1,630 contributions. And of course, they were dispersed. 55 in class 7, 463 in class 8, 454 in class 12, 61 in class 15, and 597 in class 16. So in most of the cases, she was always in the highest class. So when it was 8 classes, she had probably 90% of her contributions in the highest class. When it was in class 12, she would have had 100% of her contributions in the highest class. And then in class 16, up to the time of her retirement, she would have had 90, probably 95% of her contributions in class 16. 95% of her contributions in class 16. All right. So we're gonna just go ahead, go down and look at how we calculate the pension. So I want 2 persons to volunteer, or I will call 2 persons. So can I have 2 volunteers? Am I going to get 2 volunteers? All right, so Victor, Michelle, and I have Genevieve. So Victor, Genevieve Brown, thank you for volunteering. All right, and I have Barry. Okay, Barry, I will give you to do the retirement grant. So we have Victor. Victor, you would have worked for 30 years. I want you to write that down. 30 years from 1972 to 2002. That is 30 years. All right? And you would have amassed 1,500 contributions. Genevieve, you are, what should I say? Gen X, as opposed to a baby boomer?
Correct.
So, right. So you would have started to work in 1990 and retired in 2022, right? So we have 2 periods there. So first of all, we are going to go with Victor. Victor, in 1972, the contributions were, in the highest class, was $2.45. And then it went from $2.45 to $6.45. And then it went from $6.45 to 19 something. So the contributions during Victor 30 years were small contributions. So one of the things we first have to do, and I'm going to take you all back to the previous contribution table. So in this case, we would have seen contributions in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 classes. The first thing NIB has to do, given the fact that she has 1,638 contributions, we have to find an average of all those classes. We can't say that we would pay this person in class 16 or in class 15 or even in class 12 or class 8 or class 7 because she had several different classes. So we first have to find an average. So going back, because Victor would have worked in the periods where contributions were very small, the first thing we have to do is find an average of all those contributions. So we found an average, of Victor's contributions because he would have paid only $2.45 and $6.45 and $19 and something cents. And because of that, we had to put him in a class. So we would have put Victor in class 5 because he would have had class 8 contributions, class 7, class 6, class 3. So we found an average and he's now in class 5. Class 5, once we find an average, the average, we have a chart. So the chart tells you, once we find the average and the average tells us the class, there's an amount that is fixed for the class, which is what was already pre-established. All right, so Victor falls in class 5. So his basic pension is $1,135.12. But Victor has extra contributions. So he has 1,500 contributions. So once we establish the class that he falls in, the next thing we have to do is take away 750 contributions. So if we take away 750 contributions from the 1,500 contributions he has, we are left with 750 contributions. What happens to those contributions after 750? They are broken down into groups of 25. Each group of 25 contributions is called an increment. So we have to establish how many increments Victor has. So Victor, you had 1,500 contributions. Based on the class that you fell in, you landed in class 5, your basic pension is $1,135.12. Now we took away 750 contributions. We have an additional 750 contributions. Now I said each additional group of 25 contributions is called an increment. So I want to know, Victor, from the additional 750 contributions you have, how many increments we can get in that 750? Can you tell me? Okay, Genevieve, I want Victor to answer me. Victor, can you say? Or someone, anybody else, just tell me how much groups of 25 and 750.
30.
Exactly. So 30 groups, right? Right.
Yes,
So
what
now,
happened is I had an issue with the mic. It was mute. That was happening.
okay, great. Well,
So it
we're
was
hearing you now. I'm hearing you now, right? So the next thing we have to know, Victor, is what is the value of those additional contributions. So once we establish the amount of your basic pension, we now have to find out the value of your increments. So remember, you fell into class 5 with a basic pension of $1,135.12. We now have to find out the value of your increments. So, yes, so the value of your increments would be 2089 by the total number of increments, which is 30. So work that out for me. 2089, which is the value of your increment, by the number of increments, which is 30. Tell me how much you get. So anybody could add to it in the interest of time.
62.77.
All right, great. So it will be, I will tell you, 20 by 30 is 626.70, actually.
Okay.
All right. So what's the next step we need to do is add all the increments to the basic pension. So in Victor's case, his increments, total increment was $626.70. And then to that,
Yeah, that's
right, to that, we add your basic pension. All right? So we add your basic pension to that, $626.70 plus your basic pension is 1135.13. So your earned pension is $1,761.83. But we were mandated by law to pay a minimum of $3,000. So you know what we have to do, Victor? We have to subsidize your pension. And your pension would be subsidized by $1,238.17. So when you hear those elderly people say they're going from a national insurance on this, which is payable on the 16th of every month, they are receiving $3,000. I can see in the system that what they actually qualified for. So not too long ago, somebody reached out to my sister and he said, you know, I want to talk to Alina because I work for 30 years and I'm only getting 3,000 national insurance. And this is what I want to resonate with you all here today. Sometimes you look at the number of contributions you make and say you make over the amount. The amount it only ends when you stop working. Because as I said before, it must continue so you can access short-term benefits. That's one. When you look at the amount of contributions, I want you also to look at the class of the contributions, because the outcome is not only the number of contributions, but the class. So in Curtis's case, he was talking about contributing for 30 plus years, right? Curtis was a janitor in a school. When he left 10 years before he reached 60. And truth be told, his contribution, his NIB pension was bigger than his last salary. All right? So what he just was studying, what was in his mind, is that he paid for 30 years. He didn't consider the smaller value that he was paying. So somebody that would have paid 1,500 contributions in a small class would get a subsidized pension. That is basically what I'm saying here. Now, Genevieve, on the other hand, would have worked from 2002 from 1990 to 1992 to 2022. She would have worked another 30 years. But in those periods, we would have had legislative changes where the contributions would have increased. So it went from 8 classes to 12 to 16. And her salary is a lot higher. So Genevieve will would have amassed 1,500 contributions. So Genevieve, you would fall in class, put your name in class 12, because there's where we are today. All right? So same thing, you have 1,500 contributions, you ended up in class 12. You have 750 extra contributions. Beyond 750, because it's 1,500 contributions you have. What you have to do now, and we would have already established that we have to find how many increments, and we found 30 increments in that additional 720. But what you have to do for me now is multiply the number of increments, which is 30, by the value of the increments, which is $54.86, and tell me what you get.
1,645.80.
All right, and now you add it to your basic pension of $2,938.
and I get 4,583.80.
All right. So that is your earned pension. So in Victor's case, we had to, because he would have, both of you would have had the same amount of contributions, but you all would have worked in different time periods, right? So in Victor's case, his pension would have been subsidized. In your case, it would not have been subsidized because of the fact that you would have worked in periods where contribution values were higher, notwithstanding the fact you would have had notwithstanding the fact that your salary would have been higher, the classes would have been higher, and although you would have had the same amount of contributions. Now, someone wants to know how we determine the class. We determine the class based on all the classes. It's just finding an average. So when you get your contribution statement, you could determine your class, because if you see 500 in one class, 600 in the other class, 500, you add all the classes together and they divided by the number of classes that you would have contributed in, and it gives you the average class. So in the person's case, if they had 10 in class, 1,000 in class, 500 in class 5, 8 in class, 300 in class 8, 200 in class 10, you add all the classes together and then you divide to find the average class. And that average class then gives you the amount that is paid. That amount was already established. It was determined by the actuaries years ago. So it is already established, and then you have the increments to go with it. Once you know the class, there's a corresponding increment in each class. So in Genevieve's case, her pension will not be subsidized because of the fact that she would have worked in more recent years, her salary was higher, and then she would have had a greater level of contribution compared to that of Victor, where Victor was small back then, and then it would have been, because of the fact it was small, he fell under the minimum of 3,000, it would have been subsidized. All right? Yes, and that is it. The highest pension to date that I am aware of is $6,000. And it
Wow.
will increase because people are working for more money, and for longer. Yeah.
I have one quick
Of course.
question. One quick question. So when you're determining the average of the average earning class that you fall into for your pension, right? So that's 1,500 contributions that I made. You're taking into consideration the 1,500 contributions, and you're taking into consideration the different classes that I would have made those 1,500. And an average of that is determining what class I fall in, correct?
Exactly.
Okay, I just wanted to
Right.
clarify. Yeah.
Right. So that is basically how it is done. Right? So you have an idea of how it is calculated now, right?
Yes, thank you.
Genevieve?
Yes, I had no idea before. So I always thought it was such a big mystery. So I really appreciate this.
Right. So it is not a mystery, right? So, or at least I have unlocked the mystery. So you would understand, right? All right. So that is basically how it is calculated, right? Right. And it would be, all right. I'm seeing Victor. Victor, you have a question? Right. Okay. All right. So, what I want
Yes.
people.
Yes, I do. And
Okay. Okay. Go ahead. All right.
yes, I would
You.
reach
Uh-huh.
age of 60 on April. I started everything, and I got a printout. It's about,
Right.
didn't give everything. So I went back to my employer and I got my TD4 slips and all that, right? So I'll be kind in because I'm looking at it and they have different classes. So I have an idea. So I just wanted to just as a clarify it a little more. That you said that if okay, like how I would have contributed, let's say 1,700, right? But I
Right.
paid almost every class, and the last class I paid, which I paid, but the most would be class 16. So you're saying that you add all of these averages, and then that you would divide it by the
Right.
1,700. I don't want to confirm.
By the number of classes. So, okay, so if you have 15 in one, 1,000 in one class, 300 in the other class, you add them together and then you find an average of the class. And once you get an average class, then it will determine. But I want to give you a bit of advice. You have your documents with you, right? The documents that
Yes, I do.
right. You say you'll be retired in April.
Yes, April the 13th.
All right, so you made your appointment already?
Yes, I did. This will be the second one because I did the first one, which was in January, and I had some things that I had to fix. So I made
Okay,
another appointment, which will be the 7th of April.
right. Right, and because of the fact that you contributed in so many different classes, I will not, you would be paid in around probably class 10 or class 11. Or probably between class 9 and class 11, or class 9 and class 10, probably 11. So you're safe, your pension will be fairly good. It will be good.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right, so I had another question, but we will finish my presentation and I will take the questions at the end. We'll have sufficient time for me to answer as many questions as possible. All right. So now that so Sylvia saying it is intended that older person, Sylvia, we will take those questions in the end, right? I just want to get Barry involved now because Barry hand went up and I want Barry to see how we determine the retirement grant, right? All right, so, okay, right, so that is important. Somebody spoke about a lump sum payment in excess of $750. I don't know where people get that from. You know, from time and time again, I do seminars and, you know, when I go to places, people would say, but Miss Nurse, somebody told me that they get a lump sum and a monthly pension. Let me tell you something. Unless the person, you know that person to be very honest, people will tell you anything, 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 right? Somebody told me recently that a very good friend of theirs told them that they get an X amount for retirement. I said, okay, probably they are. The person said, but I can't believe that because I was working for more money than them and da 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 da. I came on the system and it was a lie. It was not true at all. But I didn't tell the person that. I just left it as it is. So people tell you anything, right? What with people is either or. You cannot get a lump sum and a monthly pension is either you have 750 or more contributions, or less than 750, or more or less than 750. What will happen, depending on the length of time your claim take to settle, or if the claim was submitted late, you will have retroactive payments that you would have received. Sometimes people come 5 years down the road and make their claim for retirement and get 5 years retroactive money. And the 5 years retroactive payments would mean that that person would have, if it was $3,000 a month, 3,000 by 12, which is 36 by 5 years, they will get 200 and something $1,000, and then the $3,000 a month. So they would have received retroactive payments in a lump sum and then the monthly payment. All right. So it's either a lump sum payment or a monthly payment. All right. That's how it works. So we want to go on now to the retirement grant, which is a lump sum. A lump sum payment made to an insured person who has attained retirement age but has not acquired at least 750 contributions, right? So the retirement grant is equal to 3 times the value of the contributions paid. So when we look at the contributions, we look at the employee and the employer, all right? So, and it is subject, the lowest we pay is $3,000. We can't pay less than the recipient of the basic pension. So the basic pension is $3,000. We cannot pay less than that. So the person will get $3,000 depending on the number of contributions the person has, right? So Barry, we are looking at 2 persons here. Somebody that would have worked from 1980 to 1992. Of course, the contributions were small back then. And then someone who would have worked from 2007 to 2019. So, you know, to every dollar that is taken out of your salary, it is matched by $2 from the employer, right? So, in 1990 between 1980 and 1992, the number of contributions was small. The value of the contributions was small. So, this person had 4,000 contributions, had 600 contributions, sorry. And the 600 contributions, because of the small value of the contributions, it came up to $4,000. So the employer would be twice times that, which is 8. 8 plus 4 is 12. And then we multiply it by 3, so it's 36,000. And if you look at the person's contributions in isolation, Barry, if we look at the employee's contribution in isolation, they would have contributed $4,000, and they end up with $36,000. How many times they would have gotten? Like for instance, the employee plus the employer would give you 3 times. The employee alone will give you how many times? You divide 4 into 36 and you will get 9, right?
9,000. Yeah.
Right, no, 9. So it's actually 9 times the amount that you would have contributed. So someone that contributed 600 contributions will actually get 9 times the value of the contributions that they put in, or 3 times what they plus the employer put in. All right? And hence the reason, if somebody dies and was supposed to get a retirement grant or would have collected a retirement grant, when they die, their spouse, their survivors, isn't entitled to any survivor's benefit because they would have received that amount or be entitled to receive that amount from the NIB when they passed, right? So the survivors, their children, their parents, their wife will not, or husband, will not be able to get survivors because of the fact that they would have gotten so much more from the NIB. Now, we're looking at between 2007 and 2019, where the value of the contributions were higher, right? The employer was the employee was 25,000, the employer 50,000. You multiply, you add 25 to 50, you get 75. You multiply it by 3, you get 225. But if you divide 25 into 225 again, Barry, you will get 9. You with me?
Yes, with you so
Right.
far.
So it's 9 times the value. So I want to take you all back a little bit to Curtis. Curtis said that he would have worked for 30 years and he would have gotten only $3,000. Curtis would have paid for in a small class, and as such, his true pension was $1,941, and he didn't even know that it was being subsidized. All he knows is that he worked for 30 years, he paid contributions for 30 years, and the contributions he paid was, to me, because the salary is small, it might have been burdensome, and he expected a greater outcome of his pension, not even knowing that his salary was small, the contributions were small, and the eventual outcome of his pension was small and had to be subsidized, right? Again, when persons say, I'm going for my $3,000 on the 16th of the month, I can see that some of them didn't even qualify for $3,000, but they are getting $3,000, all right? So moving on, a retirement pension is, you know, we would have gone through that. It's the minimum of 3,000 and it can be subsidized. Unsubsidized, it reaches up to $6,000 at present. By the end of the year, it might go to about 6,002. By the end of the mid next year, 6,005. The following year, it might go to 7,000. It all depends, right? So what if I retire and go back out to work? Now, here's where we have a lot of Trinidadians, right? Trinidadians know sometimes before they retire that they are going to go back out to work. But because they want the best of both worlds, they come to an agreement with the employer to break their work. They would go from permanent to contract, let them take 2 weeks off, and then make the claim and go back out to work. That is not correct. If you know beforehand that you are going to continue to work, continue to work, continue to make your contributions. And at the end of, if you go from permanent to contract, at the expiration of your contract, or if you so desire to leave before, you can make your claim. Your benefit will be bigger. All right? How, you know, on the other hand, you have persons who would have retired already, and then at some point, the employer called them back out to work. They would not have known before. They go back out to work, and when they go back out to work, they get when they go back out to work, they get a letter from NIB stating that they are in receipt of a benefit. It's a generic letter. It doesn't state how much, right? And you take it to the employer, and the employer make payment in Class Z to cover you for injury on the job. So what would happen? The employer makes payment. He doesn't take out anything from your salary. He just makes payment in Class Z for you. All right? To cover you for injury on the job. And that's it. And that's for persons who are already in receipt of national insurance retirement benefits, whether it was a grant or it is a pension. You come into NIB, get a letter, go back out to the employer. And in Victor's case, let's say Victor goes home in April. And in September, his employer calls him back out to work. he goes back out to work. And when he goes back out to work, he comes into NIB, gets his letter, takes the letter to his employer. And when he takes the letter to the employer stating that he had made a claim to national insurance for retirement and he's in receipt of a retirement pension, the employer now, with that being said, pays contributions for Victor in class Z. All right? Right, so we have what we call reciprocal arrangements between ourselves and Canada and ourselves and CARICOM countries. All right, so if someone worked and lived in Canada, or lived in Canada, or works in any CARICOM country, NIB will pay that person a reciprocal pension. Right? Yeah, no problem. NIB will pay a reciprocal pension to those persons who would have lived in Canada or who would have worked in Canada. But it must be persons who would have contributed less than 750 contributions. Because once you made 750 contributions, you would indeed qualify for the minimum $3,000 retirement pension. All right, so for those persons who would have amassed less than 750 contributions, would have either worked or lived in Canada, they are going to receive a reciprocal pension. All right, or persons who would have worked in CARICOM countries, they would receive a reciprocal pension. All right, no, the US isn't included. The agreement is between CARICOM countries and TNT and Canada and TNT. So the US is not included. All right. What happens if somebody has to get a pension or a retirement grant and dies before they receive it? The NIBTT does not, it would not keep the money though. We pay it to the estate. So whoever gets letters of administration and brings it to NIB, we pay that money to the person whose name is on the letters of administration, who is the applicant, right? So we pay it to that person. In many cases, persons die and the money stays here and is accessed through letters of administration. All right. Yeah, retirement, as I should have said earlier, you have 1 year in which to make your claim. 1 year, 12 months. Anything outside that, a late letter is needed because it would be deemed late. Within the 1 year period, you have to come into NIB 3 months before you retire. Your last date work, your 60th birthday, your 65th birthday, or any time in between that to submit your claim. But in order to submit your claim, an appointment must be made. So you must make an appointment in order to submit your claim. All right? So when should I submit my claim for retirement? Your claim should be submitted 3 months before your 60th or 65th birthday, or 3 months before your last date of employment. That is between the ages of 60 and 65 years, as I said just now. All right. Right. I think one other thing that I wanted to mention is life certificates. Life certificates are needed for persons who don't live outside of Trinidad and Tobago. So some years ago, we signed an MOU with Ministry of Legal Affairs, and we get a listing of persons who would have died you know, daily. And getting that listing is either through a funeral grant or through the listing. We take them off the system, right? Other than that, persons who would have migrated, they must submit a life certificate June and December every year. What happens? The payment stops and is reactivated retroactively upon receipt. So they do not lose anything. It would be reactivated retroactively. But for persons who live in Trinidad, because of that MOU with Ministry of Legal Affairs, there's no need to submit a life certificate. All right? Again, if somebody dies or received a retirement grant and passed, their estate would not be entitled to make, they would not be entitled to make a claim for survivor's benefit simply because they would have received 3 times or 9 times the amount, 3 times the amount, or entitled to receive if they didn't make the claim, 3 times the amount the employee plus the employer's contributions. Or if you look at the employee's contributions in isolation, 9 times the amount, right? So they would not be entitled to. However, the person who would have been in receipt of a retirement pension or entitled to receive a retirement pension will qualify for survivor's benefits. All right. And I think that brings me to an end of the presentation. I'm available to answer all questions because we are here until 7:30 and it is 12 minutes to 7. All right. So I know I saw a few questions coming in. So, Ms. Mohammed, you want to read the questions for me?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Nurse. So the first question is from Sylvia. She asked, please explain how NIB determines a person's average class. And I believe that's when you were saying add the average of the different classes. When you were doing the mathematics, yeah, the Curtis and Jonathan.
Divided by the number of classes, and you will get the
Right.
average class, right? So that was
Okay.
explained.
Right. The next question is from Nadine. Does NIB pay on contributions above 1,500? So I think you were explaining the 750, the 1,500 minus the 750, but I think this question is if you contributed more than 1,500.
All right. So if you're contributing more than 1,500, you'd obviously have more increments. So somebody that would have had 2,000 contributions, and you take away this first 750, you divide the increments you divide 25 into 1,350, right? Or 1,250, sorry, because 1,250 and 750 is 2,000, right? So somebody with 2,000 contributions will have 1,250 additional contributions, and you divide that into 25 and you get the number of increments. And the increments is added on to the basic pension, which will give you a bigger pension than someone who had 1,500 contributions, right?
Right.
One of the things I want to resonate on, as I said earlier on, one of the things I want you all to get away from saying that I have 2,000 contributions or I have 1,500 contributions, because the contributions have a value. So you may have 2,000 contributions and be surprised to see you get a pension of $3,300, as opposed to somebody who has 1,500 or 1,700 contributions and getting a pension of $4,000. It all depends on your salary and your contribution, the value of the contributions, which is, of course, based on your salary. All right? So it would simply mean that the person who would have had 1,700 contributions had a bigger salary than that person who had 2,000 contributions, but with a smaller salary, right?
That is very informative because I always thought when you made these 750 contributions, you're ready for retirement. But I think the information you shared today was quite insightful.
Right.
The next,
And that is
the next,
why I said
Mm.
before you go on, Ms. Mohammed, that is why I said, once you're continuing to work, if legislation passes that we stop at 750, when you get sick or if someone gets pregnant, they cannot get anything because we have no current contributions to use from. So
yeah, understand.
that is the reason why contributions continue to come out. Right, so
Understand.
continue.
Next question is from Lisa. She said, in reviewing a contribution statement, many times contributions are not reflected, sorry. Many times the contributions are not reflected, which will affect the calculation based on increments. How can this information be accurately obtained?
So she said many times, repeat it for me, please. I lost somewhere in between.
Yeah, sorry. In reviewing a contribution statement, many times contributions are not reflected, which will affect the calculation based on increments. So, sometimes you might download your statement and there might be missing information. So she's asking, how can this information be accurately obtained?
Right. So what she can do is visit a service center where they would give her 2 forms, an I-4 and a 165 to fill out. And once she fills out those forms, she will, they will look to, one of the form, it gives you historical data, employment data. So the NI 165, she has to put all the places that she would have worked. And once she put all the places that she would have worked, we will then go to those employers' files, pull the contributions, but they would ask her for that together with alternative evidence. So if she has pay slips, TD4s, pay record cards, she brings them in together with the the completed NI-4 and 165. And once she brings those things in, we will take the contributions from the information that she gave us, put it on, and then use the forms that she would have filled out. Go to the employer's file. If there are additional contributions, we will take it, add it, and put it, add it on. And yes, and give her a updated contribution statement.
Right.
Right.
So it's important that we check these statements ever so often to make sure they're current.
Yes, I would suggest every 3 years or so, ask for a contribution statement. And then you could compare it. Contributions that weren't there before may have been added within that 3-year period.
Right.
All right.
And how do you get the contribution statement? Is it online?
Yes, you could request it online.
Okay, perfect.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, the next question is from Sylvia. She says, it is intended that older pensioners whose contributions were paid in years when the highest classes were 9 and 12 will be permanently limited to smaller pensions.
Mm-hmm.
So let me repeat the question. It is intended that older pensioners whose contributions were paid in years when the highest classes were 9 and 11, 9 and 12, sorry. Yeah. Okay, 8 will be permanently limited to smaller pensions. So I think this is based on the calculation you were doing earlier, where persons who contributed in earlier years when I guess the value of money was smaller, right? And the contribution therefore was smaller. The question is, therefore, is it that therefore persons and those groups will be paid a smaller pension?
Of course, and more likely than not, their pensions would be subsidized.
Right. I'm just thinking because this might happen to persons who retire in the next 15 years as well too. Maybe with the value of money. No?
No. It's just that what they get then, the value might be significantly less than today.
Right.
Right? Although the pensions are higher because just 2 years ago or 3 years ago, when my friend made their claim, she received 5,400 and now it's 6,000. So time, other persons, probably in 2035, the pension might be $8,000 a month, but the value of $8,000 then might be comparable to $3,000 now. You understand?
Right.
The value, yeah.
Cheryl asked about the talk of lump sum payments on the excess of 750 payments. Is it true?
Well, I would have addressed that.
Right.
Where
Mhm.
it's only retroactive once you're getting a monthly payment, any lump sum you get would be retroactive payments,
Right.
right? So you cannot get a
So-
lump sum and a monthly pension.
Right.
Mhm.
The other question is from Cheryl as well too. What if the person received a lump sum, they did not make the full 750 like Curtis, which is the example you did earlier,
Right?
can they still fall under Class C?
Well, class Z is only for persons who would have gone back out to work, you know, and the employer pays the contributions for them. Those are the only persons that are in Class Z. Those persons and the other persons, set of persons who fall in Class Z or Class Z, would be persons who are under the age of 16, right? So the employer pays for them, and those are persons who are like on-the-job trainees and persons who are unpaid apprentices. So under 16, the employer pays contributions in Class Z for you if you are unpaid apprentice and over 65, if you're still employed. Those are the only two ways Class Z are paid for persons. All right?
Right. Dominique has a question. What is the procedure for applying for your pension? How early before your retirement date can you start putting things in place? I think you mentioned 3 months before
months.
your retirement date or
I
end of
think
employment.
Right now, I would say 4 months before, go on. Well, we have a little issue with the appointment system at present, but once that is sorted out, you can go like 4 months before, get a date 3 months before your last day at work or your 60th or 65th birthday, to go in to make your claim. So someone who is going to be 60 in, let's say, June, they should make their claim ideally in March. So this month, February, they should go on, look for a date in March, then may go in on that date to make your claim. So if the person will be 60 on the 20th of June, they make their claim they make their appointment on the 20th of March or going forward, not before. The system will not accept it. It must be 3 months before. So the 20th of March, go forward, you make your claim, you make your appointment. But you can make it from February, as early as February. You go February, you make your appointment for the 20th of March, which is 3 months before your 60th birthday. And that is
So
how it should be done.
Right, so you physically go into one of the NIB centers
No,
for the
you go
appointment?
in, you go online. But as I said,
Mhm.
at present, we have a little issue that they're trying to sort out. So once that is sorted out, persons going forward go 4 months before their 60th birthday or their last day at work, and they make an appointment 3 months before. You don't want to go 3 months before. You may not get the day that you want. So you
Right.
take it, you go up in advance. You go a month before and you make an appointment 3 months before. All right? To make your claim.
Genevieve is asking, who can I name as a beneficiary to receive survivor's benefits?
All right. So under national insurance, and that's an excellent question, Genevieve. you cannot nominate anybody under national insurance, right? Your recipients are stated, they're fixed. Your husband, common law or married, your spouse, common law or married, children under the age of 19, and your parents, all right? So if someone dies and money stays inside, letters of administration must be brought in, and it would be paid to whoever the applicant is. Outside of that, the recipients of your benefit is stated, is fixed. Children under the age of 19, husband, wife, legal common law or common law, parents, and that's it. So you cannot nominate anybody. All right?
Okay.
The only other thing is that to make the process easier for survivors, a man, if they're living common law, a man could fill out what you call a NI 42, sorry, a nomination of beneficiary form to nominate the woman or the man to receive the benefit. But that is only in the case of common law, a common law union where both persons were cohabitating, living together under the same roof for at least 3 years. That's the only way. All right?
Okay. Jillian has a question.
Yes.
She says, I am 57 and migrated to the US at age 33. Most of the companies I worked for while in Trinidad are no longer in existence. Would NIB be able to get my info?
Well, it all depends if they're not existent. First of all, she has to get her contribution statement and look at it and see what it looks like. It may very well have all of her contributions of all the places that she worked. If it doesn't, she will have to let us know where she worked. If she has fill out the NI 165, we will look for those employers, see if we can get her contributions. And alternatively, if she has copy like pay slips or TD4s or whatever, it will just, it will help us. It will assist us in updating her contribution statement. All right?
Okay. Tammy is asking, do I need to complete a NI4 form, NI4 form, each time I change employers in order for my contributions to be accurately applied?
It is required. So what happens, and that is it's really like a safety mechanism, because what we have found is employers once you complete, you change employers, we link you with that employer. So if the employer is not paying your contributions, it is easy to tell that he's not paying your contribution, but you are an employee. If it's not completed, he could always say that you are not his employee. He's not paying for you. There's no evidence from our end that you are his employee. So once we link you, we have proof that you are that person's employee. You work with that employer. All right. So every time one changes an employer, it is mandatory that an NI4 is completed. So we link them to that employer. All right.
That is very good information. I never knew that. Lakshmi Prasad, her question was, help me with this. If my contributions are class 8 to 480, class 12 to 270, class 13 to 4, class 16 to 898. So the total contributions is 1652, which is 1,652. Which class do I fall into? So I think she's asking for the mathematics behind the first question.
Right. I can't say it offhand, but she would have had contribution rate ranging from class 8 to class 16 or class 13.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
She started at class 8 with 480 contributions.
Right.
And she ended at class 16 with 898 contributions.
Right. She's definitely not going to be in class 16. She'd be somewhere around class 10 or 11.
Okay.
And that to start off with is a big pension. So time to add the difference, she would be probably close to or over $4,000 a month.
Right, because of the number of contributions.
Yes, and the classes as well.
Right. I hope Lakshmi Prasad, that clarifies your question. Cheryl, her question is, if I retire in 2031, when will I receive my pension based on your first table of pension payments? So I think your
Right.
table went a particular year.
Right, I'm going to go back for her because I think it's going to affect a lot of us. All right, so she retires in 31.
2031, yes.
All right, so she will have to wait till she's 62 to get her pension.
Right.
All right. So you will have to wait 2 years to get your pension.
Okay. So this presentation will be on SECU's website, so members can go back and take notes of these dates as well. The next question is from Amina. She said her aunt died at 57, age 57 in 2017. Her daughter received a funeral grant successfully from NIB, but I'm wondering whether claiming her retirement pension was ever an option then. Is it a claim she can make now?
She died, unfortunately, she did not reach age 60.
No.
Right, so there's no claim to be made, and that is one of the pillars of national insurance. One of the pillars of Social Security. There are 7 different pillars you have, and one that I always talk about is redistribution. So monies that were paid by persons who weren't able to qualify for anything. They would have died, have no children, never made a claim, that sort of thing. The money stays there and is redistributed to other recipients. So in her aunt's case, it would have been redistributed. However, there's another pension that can be accessed under the age of 60, but it would be that the person was medically boarded and unable to work. It's called an invalidity benefit, which is a monthly payment paid similar to that of retirement pension, but is only accessible if you were medically boarded and deemed unable to work. And if the person dies and they didn't get the benefit, whatever remains in the system is payable to the estate. So again, money could be received under the age of 60, but the person must have been in receipt of a benefit, whether it be sickness, invalidity, or employment injury. And then the money that is left there would be paid to the estate. Right? Unfortunately, in her aunt's case, she was under 60. All right?
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
So Sandra says, for over 10 years, my NIS contributions were applied to my husband's NIS number and error. We worked together at one time. Over 18 months ago, I submitted all the documents I was asked for, letter from my husband, the letter from my husband, previous employers, etc. But situation has not been resolved. When I checked up with NIBTT, the impression is given that nothing will be done until I retire. But obviously, I am trying to avoid a gap. Is there any way to get this resolved?
Retirement would be the main focus. Would be the main focus. because of the fact that so many, at present, we are overwhelmed with the number of contributions, statements to rectify. So what we're trying to do, what they really give priority to those that are retiring right now. So those persons who are retiring at present, they will use their information and update it. And persons like herself, it's not that it will not be done, but it will take longer to be updated. So that is why they may have advised the best time would be close to retirement, where they would address it one time, add the contributions, and make the payment. And I've seen it happen time and time again. I've seen it happen as recent as October, when somebody that I know made a claim, and his name was similar to that of someone else, and the person's contribution went to his account, or his contribution went to the person's account, and they had to send it to be rectified. But then again, that person made a claim for retirement, so it was addressed at that point. All right, so it's not that it will not be addressed. Critical issues are being dealt with right now, and that, yes, it may seem critical, but it have persons who claims are in process, are there to be processed. They are given priority, and hers will be tackled after, right? So at some
But should
point,
she check in ever so often? She should check in.
she could check, or just request a statement online and check and see if it has been done. All right?
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so the next question is from Derek, and Derek said, I requested a statement of contributions online and received no reply. What do I do now?
So I understand that they are doing it quite expeditiously right now, so I don't understand why he hasn't received his. I don't know, I can't say.
Maybe he should perhaps just reapply.
Just reapply. So just what you can do is drop my email. All right. I will put my email in the chat, and I will both Derek and the other person, I will try and see what I can
Sandra.
do to assist. Yeah.
Yeah. Sandra and Derek.
All right. No. Right. So that's my email address. I'll try and see what I can do. But just give me some time, because I'm not always in office, number one, and I need to contact a specific person, and she's on vacation right now, so I will definitely try and get that done for you.
Thank you. The next question is, does one's savings affect how much pension is? Like, does one's savings, I guess your personal savings, affect how much your pension will be?
No, I think I know what they mean, if it would be taxed. No, it doesn't affect it. It is just based on, it's a pay-as-you-go system. So as you work, depending on your contributions, depending on your salary, it comes out, the contributions comes out. If you have overtime, if you get bonus in a particular period, the class would change, it would go higher. If it is that something affects your pay, it will go lower, and based on that, you are paid. All right?
Right.
So
Sylvia's asking.
Right, so it's not based on savings or anything, it's based on what you contributed into the system, and what we pay you is exempt of tax. Right?
Right. Sylvia was asking about the online requested contribution statements on NIB website seem to be down, but I think you mentioned there are some issues right now, right?
Yeah.
Right. Maurice is asking, can you explain gratuity versus pension?
Well, gratuity is not paid by the NIB, right? Pension is a monthly, a monthly amount that the NIB gives at the end of your work life, right? Based on your contributions, right? And I guess gratuity is the amount of money that you would have contributed to your work pension, and is given to you at the end of your work life as well. So when you receive a gratuity from your employer, it would have meant be based on whatever you contributed, right? I guess.
Okay. Just a few more questions. Dominique is asking, if you are self-employed, what proof is needed when you are ready to retire?
Well, if you're self-employed and you never contributed, there's nothing you can get. Right? There's
But,
nothing once you're self-employed, there's nothing you can get.
And you mentioned self-employed earlier in the presentation is, you said self-employed is an employed person, so that person can make contributions, I guess, under their business.
Pardon?
No, just trying to understand the self-employed persons, right?
All right.
So you had said,
Go ahead.
no, I made a note earlier when you were speaking that self-employed persons is an employed person. So they employ, so therefore they could contribute to NIB.
Yeah,
that correct?
self-employed, no. The act, and I said it, I think I was very clear when I said it. If it is that the person is in receipt, what I said is the act defines an employed person. An employed person is also a self-employed person is also called an employed person under the National Insurance Act. So if it is that you're employed, you're self-employed, you're deemed an employed person, and as such, you cannot pay contributions for yourself. All right. So it was really meant to enhance persons' position, like persons who would have worked Petrotrin and would have been, given VSEP, and persons who would have been working with different agencies and would have been sent home. If you have the means to pay it, you pay it. But once you're a self-employed person, I think the reason why they weren't included was the self-employed persons were supposed to come up. The NIB was supposed to come up with a program to cover self-employed persons. So that in that regard, the Act defines an employed person as also a self-employed person. And with that in mind, they are excluded from paying voluntary contributions. Right.
Right. So Dominica is clarifying. She says, I'm a self-employed. She's saying she's self-employed now, but I worked for companies before and have made more than 750 contributions.
Right. So Dominique, you will get your pension when you turn 60. It is right there. And if you turn 60 by next year, if you're turning 60 by 2028, you have to wait till you're 61. And if you're going to turn 60 in 2030, you have to wait till you're 62, right?
Right. So she's asking, because she's self-employed now, what proof is needed when she's ready to retire from the self-employment? What documents, I suppose, she would need to present?
She doesn't have to get any. Once she reaches 60, she can make her claim. We don't need, what we need though is her last employer to sign and stamp the form. The last place that she would have worked with to sign and stamp the form. That is what we will need.
And she needs to get a stamp within the 3 months, or she could go before the 3 months to get a stamp.
Before the 3 months, because she wants to submit her claim by the 3 months before. So ideally, it should be
Right.
stamped before. Because if the employer is still in existence, they would send her to have it stamped before they accept the claim. And if the employer is no longer in existence, she will have to write a letter stating that the employer has since been, has since closed business, is not operational, and as such, there's no one to sign the form, and we will accept it. Right?
All right, so Genevieve has, if you take a reduced pension by taking NIS early at 60, even though you were due to receive it at 62, by how much would the pension be reduced by taking it 2 years earlier?
I can't say, I can't say. I know they spoke about a percentage, but I can't. What I can do is find that out and share it with you. Right? I can pass it on to you, Ms. Mohammed, and you can probably share it with the folks. I
Yeah,
can't
thank you. That would
remember
be great.
the percentage, but it will be a percentage.
Okay. Maurice is asking, how does this work if you worked both in the private sector for 17.75 years and also a public servant just under 10 years? Would the formula calculation be the same as the retirement as a public servant?
It's contributions, whether public servant or private, is based on your salary. So it doesn't have a specific contribution table for public servants, and for private citizens is one contribution statement we use. So if we use that contribution statement, it's based on that we'll be calculating your benefit. All right, so we'll use all your contributions, all of your contributions, both from private and public, and determine your pension or your grant, your lump sum. It all depends on how many contributions you had collectively.
Okay.
Right?
So Cheryl is just double checking our earlier conversation. She said she will be 65 in 2031, right? Based on the chart you have here, she'll be 65 in 2031.
Yeah.
Do you mean I will get my pension at 62 in 2030?
Once she's still working, she can't get it until she's 65. If she isn't working, she can make it. Once she's 60, she can make it. If she's over 60, she can make it. Because we're in 2026. She'd be 65 in 2032, she said.
31.
31, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So she'll be 60 next year then, 2027. All right, if she's not working at the age of 60, she can make it. She doesn't have to wait till 2032 when she reaches 65. And if she's still actively employed, she's going to be 60. She's going to be 60 next year and retires. She make it then if she has to go to 65, not until 2032 when she's 65. Or if she decides to leave anywhere between that time, take early retirement, she can make it at the point in time that she retires. Right?
Right.
I want her to
Just quickly
understand. I want her to understand why it will be entertained. It will be entertained only because she will be 60 in 2027. And it will only affect those from January 2028. So if she would have been 60 in 2028, she have to wait till 2029 to make her claim. She has to wait a whole year. Right?
Yeah. So we have two more questions.
Ms. Mohammed, it sounds a little complicated.
Yeah, I'm not too sure if Cheryl wants to come on. Yeah, Cheryl. to clarify her question. You can unmute yourself, Cheryl.
Cheryl is still muted.
Davel, can you assist Cheryl? So I'll just go to another question by the time we're trying to get Cheryl
Yes,
on
yes,
it.
I'm here.
Oh,
I wasn't
okay.
I wasn't
Alright.
getting access to unmute before. Yes. So I am 60 this year, July,
All right.
right? I am 60 this year, and my retirement age at my job is 65. So that is
Right.
what I wanted to know.
Right.
If
Okay.
So
you get it at you will get it when you turn 65.
oh, only because
Remember for folks that retire at 65, you cannot get it before 65. However, because you will be 60 this year, if you decide to retire at 62, you will receive your full pension because it only affects those persons who were born in 1968 go forward. You were born in 1966, so it will not affect you,
great.
right?
All right.
So if even if you decide to live at 64, 61, 62, 63, you will get your full pension.
Thank
You
you.
don't have to wait.
All right.
Right?
That is crystal clear now. Thank you so much.
Very good.
Okay, so Jillian is asking, Ms. News, if you could add a link for the website to request a printout. Perhaps you could send that to me and we could circulate that after as well, if you're
Okay, no
unable to share the
problem.
link now.
No problem.
Yeah.
I can, let me
Um,
see if I can get it. I will get it
In the meantime?
before we leave.
Okay, great.
I'm not sure.
Tammy is asking, does having a company pension or private pension affect my NIB pension payments? I believe you said that it is
No, it
independent and you
It
personal,
wouldn't,
right?
it wouldn't, it wouldn't. You could have 10 different types of pension. You are still going to get whatever you put in is what you will get out. And is the only benefit we do not deny persons unless there's some fraud.
Right,
You will be
okay.
paid the benefits, yeah.
Cheryl is contributing to an earlier discussion regarding I think there's a question around gratuity versus pension, and Cheryl is stating that gratuity is paid to contract workers 2 to 3 years employed by the government. It is in place of a pension, so it's nothing to do with the NIB. Thanks,
Right.
Cheryl. Yeah. Amori said retirement for public servants is 55 years and not 60.
Yeah.
All right.
I understand what you mean, but gratuity can take the various forms, as they say in online here, is a sum of money given voluntarily by a client or employer to a service provider or employee, acting as a tip for service rendered or token of appreciation for loyalty. So although we know at the end of a contractual period, people get gratuity, people, if someone is working and provide a service, working with, let us say, Hilton, or provided a service, they get a sum of money, and it is termed a gratuity as well. So there are different terms for meanings for gratuity, but in her context, it is for public servants, it is given at the end of the contractual period. Yeah, and it's different to retirement, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So just 2 more questions. I know we are at 7:30. So Dominique was asking about the form that has to be stamped by my last employer. Can be collected at any time from NIB office. So she's asking if the form is available at any time from NIB.
You don't even have to come to NIB, you can download it. Go on our
Perfect.
website, go to forms, it's in the banner on top, and then look for exactly what form you want. If it is NI 165, it has all the forms, it has all the benefits. So if it's retirement, sickness, maternity, you just click on it and it will come up and you print the form. If it's NI 4, 165, you just go into employer's forms and it will list all the forms that is related to an employer. You have the NI 99, the complaint form, you have all the other different forms, and you just print whichever one you want, right? And then it have general forms. General forms would be like for payment, if you want a benefit transfer to another account, is those kind of things. Or if you want NI 42, which is a form that when you live in common law with somebody, a nomination and beneficiary, that's in the general section. So it is very clear. You just go in, click forms, and then it will tell you exactly what you know what you want. It will list it, and you just go in there, click and print. All right?
Okay. And Stephanie is just making a statement here. Thanks, Stephanie. She says, if I may humbly submit a solution to you, the panel, for those self-employed persons who are exempt from making payments to NIB, can contact her to set up retirement plan to ensure they receive an income at retirement. So she's offering an alternative. So you guys can reach out to Stephanie Garner Walker. Alicia is saying, I worked part-time for 20 years for one company and many of their subsidiaries. Do I qualify for pension? I have 2 more years to 60 years.
So she
I would say yes. She
would have
worked part-time. Yeah, so she worked part-time for 20 years for one company and many of their subsidiaries. So she's asking if she would qualify for pension. She has 2 more years to age 60.
Of course, once you work part-time, full-time contract of service, once you are under one of those terms of employment, contributions should be deducted and remitted on your behalf, and then you will qualify 20 years. Once you have 14 and a half to 15 years of contributions, you would qualify for monthly pension.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
So thanks everyone for joining today's session. It was so informative. We appreciate your active participation and all the helpful questions. On behalf of the management and the Board of SECU and our Education Committee, we extend our gratitude to you, Ms. Nurse, for sharing your expertise. You know, this was such an engaging session and so informative.
It was indeed. It's
Yes.
very engaging.
And I know this is your passion, right? Yeah. Helping persons.
I
Yes.
thank you all for the opportunity to be here to impart my knowledge with you. All right?
Thank you so much.
Thanks
And members, we
again.
have another webinar. We have another webinar on the 25th of March titled Your Guide to Smart Insurance Choices. So we look forward to you guys joining then. And remember, the recording will be on the webinar. So you will have a chance to go through again everything that Ms. Nurse went through and be able to reference for future as well too. So thanks again for your time and engagement, and have a great evening.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms.
thanks a
Nurse.
lot. Okay, home time for me now.
Yes.
Bye. Okay,
Bye-bye, everyone.
Sure.